If you want to avoid the biggest reasons successful businesses in the $1 to $5 million range wind up bankrupt, you're going to need to learn these three signals and the one question you should ask yourself before making any sizable investment for your business. It's probably not what you think. Now, after 20 years building companies, I'll tell you this, it's not a revenue problem, and cutting costs won't touch it. So you just had your best quarter ever. Revenue's up, team's bigger. Then you opened your account to run payroll, and the number stops you in your tracks. There's less in the bank than when you were half this size. So what happened? By the end of this, you'll spend 5 minutes every Monday and know exactly what happened and how to solve it for good. It's three signals, and I'll hand you all of them in order. Now skip it, and you'll keep funding growth off of a number that lies until it caps what your business is worth or causes bankruptcy. If we haven't met, I'm JD Bach. I help 7 and 8 figure founders scale, sell, or step back by getting the order right. Your capacity first, then your systems, one layer at a time. Now, I'm sure you can relate to this, even if nobody warned you about it. The revenue numbers have continued to climb. Your accountant says you're profitable. And you even told your spouse it was a great quarter because you genuinely believed it was true. But your bank account is flat or worse, dropping, and you can't explain why without opening a spreadsheet and digging through it all. So you look for the leak. Maybe it's that one vendor. Maybe it's the new hires. You build a reason in your mind, you close the browser tab, and you get back to work. That reason isn't the answer. The answer is signals you never bothered to look at. It's called the cash pulse. It's three signals, in fact, 5 minutes every Monday. I'll give you all three right now, and then I'll show you why a business this profitable runs out of cash in the first place. Because that answer changes how you read every deal you close. So here they are. Number one, available liquidity. This isn't your net worth and it's not your revenue. It's the actual cash in your operating account right now, plus any undrawn credit you could draw on this week if you had to. Cash is what you have. Liquidity is what you can reach. A company that's paid down its line of credit has far more room than its bank balance shows. So you settle on your liquidity number and the rest of the pulse builds on it. Now, number two, the 13-week cash map. Your next 13 weeks laid out week by week, committed money coming in against committed money going out. And listen to this part twice because it's crucial. It's the whole game. It's not an average of where you've already been. It looks forward. A weather forecast for your cash. A forecast doesn't tell you it rained last week. It tells you the storm hits Thursday. So you can move before it does. So this one isn't a single number like the other two. It's a short trend line, and it's the one that catches every problem early while you can still fix it instead of after it's already dropped on your head. And if you want to see which way things are headed, look at whether the weekly trend line is climbing or dropping. Now, number three, weeks of cushion. If a bad quarter hit and your collections dried up, how many weeks of payroll and committed bills could your cash cover? Likely not zero revenue. That almost never happens to a business like yours. Just an honest bad stretch. Now, this is the number that grabs you by your hair. A founder who knows they only have 15 weeks of cushion makes a very different decision than a founder who just thinks they have enough and can't put a number on it. That's the install. Put it on your calendar as a recurring event and run it before every weekly team meeting so the numbers are fresh. And here's the discipline. You're not solving anything during the cash pulse. You're reading the three vital signs, not making a diagnosis. All three stable, and you move on. Something moved, it goes on the list and gets worked later. The discipline is the cadence, not the analysis. Okay, only 5 minutes. So why does almost nobody have it? There's a surface level reason and there's the real one. Surface level reason you'll probably catch pretty quickly. The real one, on the other hand, sits underneath everything else in this video, and until you see it, none of this will stick. So keep that question open because you already check your cash, right? You look at the bank balance every single day, but that's the trap. It feels like the opposite of a trap. The bank balance is one number with no trend and no forward view, and it's soaked in emotion. I mean, a fat deposit lands in your account and the whole business feels healthy. The account runs thin on a Wednesday and it feels like you're dying. Now, Mike calls it the recency effect. Whatever the balance did most recently sets your entire mood, and then your mood makes the decisions. So you're steering a multi-million dollar company by staring in the rearview mirror. That balance only tells you where the money already was, and by the time a problem shows up in that number, it's already slapped you. Checking it daily doesn't put you on top of the cash. It just means that you feel the crash a little sooner. And even that isn't the bottom of it. The real reason you skip that number is coming up. And it's the one that explains the years you've gone without this. So stay with me. So where does the money go? This is the part that breaks profitable companies. And it has nothing to do with revenue. Profit is based on promises, not money coming in. Now, that's Berman and Knight. You book a sale the day you deliver the work, not the day the customer pays. Customer has 30, 60, sometimes 90 days to send the check. So your P&L fills up with promises while your bank account waits. Now add growth on top of that. Now every bigger deal means you spend the money to deliver it months before that check ever clears. You buy the materials, you cover the payroll all up front in January, and the customer pays you in March. You grow faster, and all you do is widen that gap between when the money leaves and when it comes back. Now, Greg Crabtree calls this stretch the black hole, the roughly $1 to $5 million revenue range, where you're forced to add staff and infrastructure before you can really afford it. You're not doing anything wrong, but you're growing straight into a cash squeeze that a revenue chart just can't see. Now, that gap between the revenue line and the money in the bank is what I call a cash revenue divergence. And it's the exact thing that lets a profitable company starve to death. Now, let me put a face on it, because this is where the divergence stops being a chart and turns into a decision somebody can't take back. I'll take a founder. I'll call him Bob, doing about $4 million, and it was the best year of his life. Now, Bob checked his balance every morning like you probably do. And one Thursday morning, a big fat deposit hits his account, and now his account looks fat and healthy. But that afternoon, he signed an offer letter for a senior hire he'd been desperately wanting, and to him it felt responsible. I mean, it felt earned. What the Fat Thursday didn't tell him, that deposit was a customer prepay, and 3 of his biggest accounts were drifting from 30-day pay to 60. You see, the money was already spoken for, and now he'd made a permanent decision based on a temporary number. But hold on to Bob for a moment, because before we're done, I'll show you the one question that would have stopped him and why the number he needed was the one he least wanted to look at. This is how divergence turns into damage. And it's never one big mistake. It's always a stack of decisions made blindly. You drop some coin on a new staff member based off a good feeling balance instead of a forward map. You greenlight a growth bet that drops you below the reserve you'd never let yourself gamble. And when cash gets tight, you do the natural thing. You dig in, you sell harder. Selling faster into the same slow collect bottle doesn't fill the hole. You just take on more deals you have to fund up front, like more materials, more inventory, or labor, and you dig the hole deeper. Mike Halowitz calls that the survival trap. From panic to more panic, and more revenue becomes the fuel, not the fix. Now notice what the crowd tells you to do here. Cut costs, build a bigger runway, watch your burn rate. There's a problem with that. Runway and burn are startup words for a pre-revenue company spending down a fixed pile of money until it hits zero. And you're not that. You collect revenue every month. The right question was never how many weeks until zero. It's how many weeks of cushion if collections stall. It's a different number, completely different world. Now the hard part. This is the thing I told you was underneath all of it. The real reason founders go for years without spending those easy 5 minutes. I can tell you how this next part is going to sound, and it's not because I've been reading over your shoulder. I've watched it play out with founder after founder, and it barely varies. There's usually one spot in your own numbers you consistently avoid looking at. And it's not laziness, it's psychology. A bad number makes you anxious, so you look the other way. Now, a good number lets you off the hook, so you don't really look at that one either. Either way, you're making decisions without ever seeing the cash. Bob wasn't dumb. He looked at the balance every day precisely because it let him feel fine, and he skipped the number that scared him. Now, Housel says people do some crazy things with money, but nobody's truly crazy. Your pattern with cash, whether you hoard it, you spend it the second it lands, or you just don't look, isn't character flaw. It's the logic you inherited, usually before the business ever existed. Now, naming it is how you stop letting it decide for you. So here's the one question, the one I promised would have stopped Bob. Before any money decision, you ask, am I deciding from signal or from story? Now, that question doesn't erase the pattern, but it does open a gap between the number and the reflex, and you get to choose inside that gap. Now, pair it with the discipline of looking at a bad number and asking, what is this telling me? Instead of reaching for a reason to wave it off before you've ever finished reading it. Now, for me, this goes one layer deeper. About stewardship, not accumulation. Clear eyes on what's been placed in your hands and the discipline to manage it well. A number that makes you wince is still a number making decisions for you. So Bob finally sat down and ran the pulse. 5 minutes. He found out he had 11 weeks of cushion, not the 6 months he'd been telling himself. That one number stopped a second hire he was about to make, and he saw the pattern underneath it. He saw that he avoids the cash number whenever it scares him, which is exactly how he let the buffer get to that thin. He didn't need a CFO to see it. He needed 3 signals on a Monday and the nerve to look at it. Now, if you want the boundary that keeps it from happening again, it's what Crabtree calls core capital target. And 9FOS, runs it as 2 numbers, not 1. There's a floor below which growth bets wait. Something always goes wrong before the reserve rebuilds. And then there's a ceiling above which you deploy instead of hoard, because cash piled up out of fear doesn't build anything. Below the floor, you're gambling. Above, and you're hiding. So come back to that Monday you started on. Your best quarter just closed, you open your account to run payroll, and the number stopped you cold. Now you know why. Revenue books the day you deliver the work. Cash lands 30, 60, 90 days later. And every bigger deal only stretches the gap wider. The bank balance can't warn you because it only shows you where the money already was. Fix is 3 simple signals you read every Monday like clockwork. Available liquidity, the 13-week forward map, weeks of cushion. It's just 5 minutes and the nerve to look at the one you'd rather skip. You can install that yourself this week. Everything you need is already in this video. But here's what I do next. Cash is 1 signal, and it's rarely the first place a growing business starts running back through you. If you want to see where that runs deepest right now, which layers you've already cleared and which ones are your real ceiling, I built a free diagnostic that maps it in just a few minutes. It's called the Founder Dependence Diagnostic, and the link is below. Now run your cash pulse this Monday, then go find out what else the balance has been keeping from you. Revenue is a promise somebody made to you. Cash is whether they kept it. I'll see you in the next video.